Welcome to QuoteSoft Pipe. In this basic overview video, you will learn how to navigate the program, how information flows through the software, and best practices when using the software. First, navigating the program. The starting point of the program is the main menu. From the main menu, you can navigate to all areas of the program. To learn how to navigate the program, the main menu is divided up into these parts. The dashboard. The dashboard is a communication tool from QuoteSoft to you, our customer. On the dashboard, you will find information such as the direct dial support number, training options, and other information such as updates to the program and new features and enhancements. Keep your eye on the dashboard for links that will open up your browser to our website at QuoteSoft.com. This is a great resource for different products that we offer and support, including system requirements. The next area of the main menu are the support links. Selecting Call will bring up a dialog box with our direct dial support number. Selecting Request will pull up a web support request form where you can define who you are, what product you need support with, whether you'd prefer a phone call or email response, and what your specific issue is. Selecting Knowledge Base will open to our reference material where you can get written instructions on our programs. And by selecting Video Training, you will be directed to our Pipe Video Training website. The next area of the main menu are the buttons stacked vertically along the left. The purpose of these buttons is to set default values within the program. Typically, a QuoteSoft administrator will manage this, and you will learn how to set defaults in the subsequent videos. The last area of the main menu are the tabs displayed along the top. It is in these tabs you will spend most of your time doing your daily estimating tasks of managing jobs, doing zone takeoff, and running reports. Now that you understand how to navigate the program, you will be shown how information flows through the software. When using a QuoteSoft report, it is important to understand how quantities, cost values, and labor were generated here. To do so, we're going to start where all the data originates, in the database. This is where all materials are defined. Cost and labor are associated with each database item. For example, let's take a look at 1-inch Type L hard copper tube. Here we can see the cost values associated with this database item, as well as the labor values associated with each database item. Please understand, your default QuoteSoft database comes well populated with over 100,000 database items. The database is the starting point for information flowing through the program. Here, your raw materials, cost, and labor is defined. At this level, this is simply a database of options available to you. Sorting through 100,000 database items to generate a material list would be quite tedious, and this is not how takeoff is done. So let's move to the next level of how information flows through the program. Database items are filtered into usable material lists via specs. Specs are used to define the different systems you will be taking off. Reviewing the global spec list here, you will see that QuoteSoft is neither geared toward hydronic nor plumbing, but both. Each spec is populated with unique database items. For example, when doing a copper domestic water takeoff, you will only want to use materials associated with that system. Opening the spec will show the 20 or so database items assigned to this system. To review, at this level, specs are systems populated with unique database items. Moving on with how information flows through the program. Please understand, each job created will need to be populated with specs. If doing a plumbing takeoff, plumbing specs will be assigned to the job. If doing a hydronic takeoff, hydronic specs will be assigned to the job. Material lists will be generated in each job, and specs control what those materials are. For each assembly defined in the project, a spec is assigned to the assembly's material list to define its unique materials. And also, zones will be created, and each zone will be assigned a spec so that the zone's material list will also be assigned unique materials. It is in zones where you will scale off your footages of pipe, count fittings, valves, fixtures, and equipment. Through the takeoff process, many line items of materials will be taken off in many zones. Moving on with how information flows through the program, we now need a way to summarize our material totals, and we do that via reports. Reports are the final destination for information flowing through the program. Here in reports, you will see summaries of your zone takeoff totals. Let's do a quick review of information flowing through the program. The program has a database of over 100,000 options available to you where material pricing and labor hours are defined. Those database items are then assigned to specs, defining unique systems. Specs are then assigned to each job created. In each job, material lists are populated with assemblies and zone takeoff, each of which is assigned a spec. Zone takeoff counts and quantities are then populated and summarized into reports. Now that you understand both how to navigate the program and how information flows through the software, the last topic of discussion will be best practices when using the program for daily estimating tasks. The tabs along the top of the screen are where you'll spend most of your time when using QuoteSoft Pipe. Please understand these tabs have very specifically been arranged in a left to right order to help you remember the steps involved when using the program to see a job throughout from start to finish. From the Jobs tab to the Reports tab, think of each tab as a step that must be completed as you work through the tabs from left to right. You will be now given a brief explanation of the purpose of each tab and why each tab falls in its specific left to right order. From the main menu, we will be starting in the Jobs tab. This is the first step you must take when using QuoteSoft Pipe. Here in the Jobs tab, this is where new jobs will be created. We can open existing jobs, edit information about the job, such as the bid date, copy jobs, and delete jobs. Once a job has been created, the next step is to open the job to the Specs tab. The purpose of the Specs tab is to define the systems that will be taken off with the project. Here in the Specs tab, you will manage new specs, be able to open and edit existing specs, change name and descriptions with edit info, and import existing specs into the job, as well as delete. Please note, here in the Specs tab, you will be simply defining the systems that will be taken off with this job. Now that you understand the purpose of the Specs tab, you will be now given an explanation of why the Specs tab falls to the right of the Jobs tab in the left to right tab order. Specs are created within a job, or it can be said this way: it is impossible to define a spec if the project does not exist. It is only after specs have been defined for the project that we can move to the next step in the process, and that is assemblies. The purpose of the Assemblies tab is to predefine material lists that repeat throughout the project as an assembly. Here in the Assemblies tab are where assemblies for the project will be managed. Here we can create new assemblies, we can open and edit existing assemblies material lists, we can change the name and description of assemblies with assembly info, we can import existing assemblies from elsewhere, and we can delete assemblies. Now that you understand what assemblies are, you will be given an explanation of why the Assemblies tab falls in the left to right tab order. Each assembly is assigned a spec so that the assembly's material list knows what material it's supposed to be. Assembly specs are not just randomly assigned. Assemblies pull specs from the previously defined specs in the Specs tab. Please note, Assemblies will only define rough-in material for fixtures and equipment. Assemblies do not include the labor to install the fixture or piece of equipment that is being roughed in. The question is then asked, how do you define fixtures and equipment and the labor to install? To do so, we will move on to the next step in the process, and that is job items. The purpose of the Job Items tab is to define fixtures and equipment, and the labor to install. Here in the Job Items tab, we will manage job items by creating new job items, opening to edit job items, importing existing job items from elsewhere, and deleting. Now that you understand the purpose of job items, you will be given an explanation as to why the Job Items tab falls in its left to right tab order. Please remember, assemblies predefine material lists for roughing in fixtures and equipment, and the assemblies themselves do not include the time of installing fixtures and equipment. Counting fixtures and equipment and defining labor for fixtures and equipment is defined here with job items. Now that your job has been created in the Jobs tab and been set up with specs, assemblies, and job items, you are ready to continue on to the next step, which is zones. The purpose of the Zones tab is to do plan file takeoff. Before you create zones, you must understand what zones are and how to manage them. A zone in QuoteSoft is defined by each drawing that will be taken off. In addition to that, each zone will be assigned a spec defining the different systems that were taken off. It is in zone takeoff where you will utilize specs to scale pipe, count fittings and valves. You will also count assemblies and job items. Now that you understand the purpose of zones, you will be given an explanation of why the Zones tab falls in the left to right tab order. The Zones tab is to the right of the Jobs tab because zones are created within jobs. Zones utilize specs, assemblies, and job items to populate zone takeoff. Please note, while doing zone takeoff, the program is only generating counts and quantities of materials, fixtures, and equipment. To apply cost and labor to your zone takeoff, you must move on to the next step, which is calculations. The purpose of calculations is to apply cost to your zone takeoff, as well as labor hours. Now that you understand the purpose of calculations, you'll be given understanding of why the Calculations tab falls in the left to right tab order. Calculations apply cost and labor hours to existing zone takeoff. Please note, it cannot be guaranteed that calculations will apply all cost values to your material takeoff. The question then quickly arises how to cover material cost for those items. To answer the question, we must move on to the Quotes tab. The purpose of the Quotes tab is to cover material costs for items that were previously taken off within zones. Here you will see two different types of items that need to be assigned prices. You will see database items, and you will see job items. Now that you understand the purpose of the Quotes tab, you will be given an explanation as to why the Quotes tab falls in the left to right tab order. Items populated in the Quotes tab were previously taken off within zones. When calculated, no material costs was associated with those items and populated in the Quotes tab so that you could apply unit pricing. To review, counts and quantities of materials was generated within zone takeoff. To apply cost and labor values, a calculation was performed. For materials that did not have cost associated, those materials are generated in the Quotes tab. Please note, the Quotes tab is not a report. This is merely a step at working toward running reports. In QuoteSoft Pipe, there are two reporting formats available to you. The first of which is found in the Exports tab, where in Excel, takeoff values are summarized and values can be added and edited for bidding purposes. The second reporting format available to you are found in the Reports tab. These are crystal reports. Crystal reports are their own reporting format, but to help you understand, Crystal reports look and act like a PDF, meaning values within the report cannot be added or edited. Thank you for watching this video on Introduction to QuoteSoft Pipe. Please continue watching all subsequent training videos so that you can learn how to customize and use each area of the program.